Everyone knows a person like Richard. Maybe you were taught to become him. He followed every rule that society handed to him with a smile. Save your money. Invest early. Let compound interest do the heavy lifting. Skip the small pleasures today so future you can live in peace. Richard listened. He became an engineer and stayed disciplined for 45 straight years. He drove second-hand cars long after he could afford new ones. He lived in a simple house when others were upgrading. He poured money into his retirement accounts year after year without fail. While his friends were collecting passport stamps in their 20s, Richard told himself there would be time later. When his family talked about renovating the kitchen in their 40s, he pushed it back again. Safety first. Always later. At 65, later finally arrived. Richard retired with a net worth of $2.5 million. By every traditional metric, he had won. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. But life does not grade on effort, and it does not care about spreadsheets. 2 years into retirement, Richard suffered a massive stroke. The years that followed were spent moving between hospital rooms and rehabilitation centers. His body failed him at the exact moment freedom was supposed to begin. The trips never happened. The experiences stayed imaginary. He passed away at 70. When his estate was settled, his accounts were worth even more than when he retired. The market had been kind while his body was not. From the outside, people called him a success, a millionaire to the very end. But if you zoom out and look honestly, what you see is not victory. You see decades of life energy converted into numbers that were never used. Tens of thousands of hours of stress, commuting, and restraint that produced no lived return. In real economic terms, Richard did not win the game. He stockpiled chips and never cashed them in. That is not success. That is waste. This brings us to an idea that makes people deeply uncomfortable, even angry, but is brutally logical once you understand it. The philosophy is called Die with Zero. The core message is simple but radical. Your goal is not to grow your net worth until the day you die. Your goal is to extract maximum value from your life before it ends. Any money left over is proof that you worked more than you needed to. It is time you gave away for nothing. Hours that could have been spent living instead of accumulating. To understand this, you first need to change how you think about money. Money is not the objective. It never was. Money is a tool, a container, a battery. It stores your life energy. Every dollar represents time. You will never get back. When you exchange 2,000 hours of your life for $100,000, you are turning irreplaceable time into a temporary resource that if you die without using that money, those 2,000 hours were effectively donated to the system for free the moment your life ends. The number on the screen loses all meaning. You cannot spend stored energy once the machine is turned off. This is where traditional financial advice quietly collapses. Most advice assumes that money has the same value no matter when you use it. $1 at 25 is treated as equal to $1 at 85. Biologically, that is nonsense. The value of money is not fixed. It depends entirely on your age, health, and capacity to turn it into experience. Imagine giving the same amount of money to 3 different people and asking them to spend it on the same activity. The outcome would be wildly different, even though the cost is identical. A young person can stretch money into adventure, discomfort, growth, and unforgettable stories. A middle-aged person can still enjoy it, but with limitations, responsibilities, and trade-offs. An elderly person may not be able to convert that same money into anything close to the same level of enjoyment. The money did not change. The body did. This is the cruel math of being human. Your ability to extract joy from money declines over time, and no amount of financial discipline can reverse biology. Life is governed by 3 variables: time, health, and money. In your youth, you have time and health but little money. In midlife, you have money and health but very little time. In old age, you may have money and time, but health is gone. The mistake most people make is over-optimizing for the final phase, saving aggressively for a version of themselves that may not be able to use what they saved. They prepare for a future player who cannot fully participate in the game. This is not about recklessness. It is about alignment. It is about recognizing that money sitting unused is not safety by default. In many cases, it is deferred life. The real tragedy is not dying without money. The real tragedy is dying without memories, without experiences, without fully inhabiting the years. When your body and mind were capable of more, the biggest reason people reject this idea is fear. The fear of running out. The fear of being old, broke, and dependent. That fear is real, and it deserves respect. No one wants to survive into their 90s, eating cheap food and counting pills, because they miscalculated. But die with zero does not mean gambling your future away, or draining your accounts the moment you retire. It means aiming for zero at the end, not halfway through the story. The solution to longevity risk is not endless hoarding. The solution is risk transfer. That is what insurance exists for. If you are afraid of living too long, the most efficient tool is an annuity. You trade a portion of your wealth for a guaranteed income stream that lasts as long as you do. Whether you live to 80 or 110, the check keeps coming. That is how you buy peace of mind. Hoarding hundreds of thousands of dollars just in case is an emotional response, not a mathematical one. It locks away capital that could have been converted into experiences, freedom, or time with the people you love while you are still able to enjoy it. The second objection people raise is legacy. They say they are not saving for themselves, they are saving for their children. On the surface, that sounds noble, but timing matters more than intention. The average age at which people receive an inheritance is around 60. By that point, most lives are already shaped. Careers are set. Homes are owned. The biggest financial decisions have already been made. Money arriving at 60 rarely changes the direction of a life. It just makes retirement a little softer. Now imagine giving that same money when your child is 30. At that age, money has leverage. It can become a down payment in a safe neighborhood. It can erase student debt. It can fund a business idea that would otherwise die on paper. It can buy time, flexibility, and courage. Giving later is easy. Giving earlier is impactful. Die with zero does not mean abandoning your kids. It means helping them when the help actually matters. It means giving with a warm hand instead of a cold one. It means being alive to see the difference your generosity makes. There is also a quiet, selfish benefit people rarely talk about. Watching someone you love use your gift well is deeply satisfying. Seeing your child build something, travel, or breathe easier because you stepped in at the right moment creates its own kind of wealth. Waiting until death robs you of that experience. You turn generosity into an abstract transaction instead of a shared memory. This brings us to one of the most overlooked ideas in personal finance: memory dividends. We are taught that experiences are expenses, things that disappear the moment the credit card bill is paid. That is not true. Experiences are assets. They pay dividends for decades. A meaningful trip, a bold decision, a shared adventure does not vanish when it ends. It lives on every time you remember it, talk about it, or laugh about it years later. Those returns compound. When you invest in experiences early, you maximize the duration of those dividends. A trip taken at 25 can pay emotional returns for 60 years. The same trip taken at 65 only pays for a fraction of that time. From a purely mathematical perspective, delaying experiences destroys their return on investment. You are shrinking the window in which those memories can enrich your life. This is why the idea of a bucket list is flawed. A bucket list is vague and future-oriented. It often becomes a graveyard of intentions. Instead, you need time buckets. Break your life into 5-year segments and assign experiences to the window where they make sense. Some things require youth, energy, or physical resilience. Others require wisdom, patience, or solitude. When you map experiences this way, something uncomfortable becomes obvious. The real scarcity is not money. It is time. Once you see that, saving blindly feels different. You realize that every year you delay is not neutral. It is a lost opportunity that cannot be bought back later at any price. You begin to understand that spending is not the enemy of wealth. Mistimed spending is .at some point in life. The game quietly changes, but most people never notice. For years, the goal is accumulation. Save more, earn more, grow the number. We get very good at this phase because it is simple and socially rewarded. But there is a second phase that almost no one is taught: decumulation. This is the phase where your net worth is supposed to shrink on purpose. This is where discipline stops, meaning restraint, and starts, meaning intentional spending. There is a peak moment where your net worth should stop rising. For many people, that point arrives far earlier than they expect, often in their late 40s or early 50s. If your wealth continues to grow long after you have secured your basic future, you are no longer working for survival. You are working out of habit. You already crossed the finish line, but you keep running because the treadmill is still moving. In economic terms, any additional growth beyond what you will ever realistically spend is unpaid labor. The first step out of this trap is calculating your survival number. This is not your dream lifestyle. It is the cost of maintaining a basic, dignified life, including healthcare, housing, and food through a very conservative lifespan, say until 95. Once you have that number covered, everything above it changes category. It is no longer safety. It is consumption capital. Money that is meant to be used, given, or transformed into experiences. If it sits untouched, it is wasted potential. Look honestly at your life right now. If you died today, what would be left in your accounts? Now ask a harder question. What did you say no to in order to protect that number? The trip you postponed. The cheaper option that drained your energy. The class you never took. The moments with your family you told yourself you would make up for later. That leftover money is not neutral. It represents experiences you intentionally denied. Yourself in exchange for a future that was never guaranteed. This philosophy is not a call to chaos. It is not permission to ignore responsibility or burn through resources blindly. If you are drowning in debt or struggling to meet basic needs, accumulation is still your priority. Security matters. But if you are a natural saver, if you have already reached financial stability, if spending triggers guilt even when you can afford it, then the danger is no longer poverty. The danger is postponing your life until it expires. Life is not a leaderboard where the highest number wins when the game ends. There is no prize for being the richest person in the cemetery. The only real measure is how fully you participated while you were here. The tragedy of Richard was not that he died. Everyone does. The tragedy was that he delayed living for a future version of himself that never arrived. He converted his best years into excess that became meaningless. The moment his body failed. The invitation here is simple and uncomfortable. Stop optimizing only for safety. Start optimizing for timing. Spend deliberately. Give earlier. Choose experiences while your body can still receive them. Build memories that will pay you back for decades. Let your wealth shrink on purpose, because that shrinking is proof that life is being lived. Your legacy will not be the balance you leave behind. It will be the stories people tell, the moments you shared, and the memories that live on in others and in yourself. Aim to reach the end not with the biggest number, but with the fewest regrets. Die with zero wasted effort. Die with zero unused life energy. Die with zero